Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thank you, Prathima.
Thank you for having us. My kids with me.
You and all your wonderful stories.
Yes.
Okay, so I was just updating everyone about what our last session was, and why don't I hand it over to you? Introduce yourself, and then we can go from there.
Sure. My name is Prathima, Prathima, whatever you want to say in that sense. But yeah, I'm a mom of three. My boys are 12 and 6, and my youngest daughter is gonna be 3 in a week. So yeah, I have kind of all of them, the different
Whole
age
spectrum.
groups. Yeah, the whole spectrum. So it's very interesting what I learned from each of those stages. And it's been a great journey though. So I think what you're doing right now and talking about reverse parenting is so important, so relevant, like because they teach us so much, being parents, and moms and dads and whatever it is. But I mean, we can learn so much from them because we lose sight of being children and how curious we were and all that kind of stuff, right? So I think they really, really like change us in so many ways. So thank
They
you for
really make
that.
us better, right? They really make us better in all terms.
Oh yeah, for sure. So I mean, there's so many things that happen every day. I have to think, okay, what did they teach me today? What I mean, so when I wanted to be on this, I think it was perfect because I had a story to tell earlier
Mhm.
this week, but then something else happened like two
Yeah,
days later. And so
sure.
that's what I wanted to share because I feel it's so relevant. So what happened was my son just randomly asked me, okay, mom, do you know what freedom is? And I said, no, why don't you? I mean, I said, yeah, I do, but why don't you tell me what it is? And
Sure.
so he just said, it just means you can do anything you want. I said, oh, okay. But he said, oh, but you have to be nice. That's it. Simple. Like you have to be
Mhm.
nice. And
Mhm.
then I don't know why, but if you've been following the news and everything that's been going on this week, it's just things that have been happening around that are tragedies. And you think about the freedom that we have in this country,
Mhm.
um, and there are so many freedoms compared to other places, but we take advantage and take it for granted,
Mhm.
I think.
Yes.
And we have to use it to the best of our ability and use it in a way that we are also still kind to other people and
Yeah.
not show our immense power and our like privilege and all that kind of stuff. So I think it got me thinking because of the stuff that's been going on, like how important it is to even that small thing, be nice, be kind. I
Mhm.
think it's so important to remember, right?
Yeah.
Whether you're, some a parent, even like when we think, okay, it's my right to yell at my kids or I can do whatever I want, when they're not doing what they're supposed to. But
Yeah.
they're just kids. Do they actually understand? Do they know the rules and all that kind of stuff? I think it's we can do it in a much better way. We can just think again, can we say it in a kinder way? Can we ask in a kinder way? Can we use that freedom to make a bigger change? And I think it all comes down to just being kind, talking with respect and all that kind of stuff, even with kids. So I thought that was so relevant, so important, and it was like perfect. Like all he had to say was just be kind, just be nice. I'm like, you're right. We forget that part. We have a lot of freedom, but we forget that part just to be nice.
Yeah.
So I thought that was so important. And whenever it is, even like the siblings, like,
Mhm.
they have freedom to, teach each other, whatever they want. My oldest son, but he's not going to learn. My middle one is not going to learn from him unless he's kind and says it in the right way. So that's what he taught me this week, and it was huge. Like it just got me thinking, like if we could just remember that phrase, like just be nice.
It's just amazing, like when you were
Yeah.
talking about it. So this is your 6-year-old?
My 6-year-old said this. Yeah.
My God, that's so it's when you were talking about it, and I was thinking, and I was trying to think that if my daughter asked me today, like, how do you define freedom? Like we kind of going back to what you were saying, freedom is such a widely and lightly used word. Like we all say, oh, it's my basic human right, it's my civil right. And yes, it is, but it's so used that we forget the basic definition. We don't like a lot of people won't even be able to describe it so eloquently as your son did, right? And people also forget that what is freedom? Like what really is freedom? Does freedom have boundaries?
Yeah.
Where do these boundaries, are they strong enough, or are they so fluid that they go into encroaching someone else's freedom or someone else's boundary, right? And when you were talking, it reminded me of that really famous saying, your freedom to swing your arm stops where the other guy's nose begins, right?
Exactly.
So it's exactly kind of the same thing that he said. It's knowing that you have a freedom, but with that freedom comes a lot of responsibilities.
Yeah.
It's like being nice, being kind is not just a sign of empathy. It's also our responsibility,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Living in a society, that's part of what's expected. That's part of what we should be doing. And it kind of, funnily, I remembered Spider-Man. You know what Spider-Man says? With great power comes great responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just amazing how sometimes we forget that. And I feel it takes these little kids to kind of just send a reminder home and saying, hey, like your freedom is yours. Yes, there's a lot of freedom you have, but there's also responsibility towards others.
Yeah.
And I'm just amazed how like a 6-year-old came up with that.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, how did you respond?
I actually stepped back for a bit, and promise you, I was quiet. Like after he said that, I was like, his name is Arvin. So I said, Arvin, you're so right. Like,
Yeah.
you have freedom to do anything you want, right? In this country and wherever else, like even in this house. But you have to be nice to your sister. You have to be nice to your brother. And then, yeah, I mean, I told his older brother this later that day. I said, "Do you know what Arvin said?" And then he was like, "Wow, he said that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, he just said it." And then, his older brother was just playing, and he's like, "Oh, you don't have to be nice." And then he's like, "No, you do have to be nice." And it was just like, I don't want him to lose that ever. And it's like those simple things. I'm like, please don't ever like lose sight of those small things. And it was so nice to just hear. And like, even when last week when you talked about those small things that your son was saying when he was looking at the ladybug, and I was like, yeah, I mean, it's just so innocent, so pure, so not disturbed by what is going on. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, those things do happen, but they're going to learn later on. But if they have those simple ideals and values in their head, I think it's important to keep. And just on the same topic, I'm a social media strategist. I work with businesses, and being on social media, we have the freedom to say whatever the heck we want, right? So we can say anything to any person, any business, any brand. And I feel that is also so overstepped, like the boundaries. We feel like we control people. We can say they're wrong, they're this, they're that. I think there's a better way to do it. I think it's great to have different opinions and respect the other person's opinion. But just this whole now being online and sharing your the feelings that you have, like I think you can keep it to yourself. It's just those things, like there's a way you can do it with kindness. And so I think that's super important, especially now in the internet world, when we can share whatever the heck we want. So and even going to restaurants, like if you feel like your food was bad, there's a way to say it. It's not like getting mad at the waiter who's helped serve you and things like that, right? Like, I mean, just those small things, the freedom that we don't want to take advantage of, we just have to remember to respect, to be kind, and just figure out a way to do it better. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you were saying like a lot of times we take freedom for granted. There are so many freedoms we take for granted. Like we live in a first world country. There are so many countries out there that even a freedom like walking on the streets you don't have.
Yep.
Right? You're scared. There's not safety enough. Those kind of freedoms, it's just kind of become part of our daily life, and we kind of just take it for granted. And like parenting, what you were saying, a lot of times I feel that too. Like I feel sometimes we take it for granted. Like we're like, oh yeah, we're parents. We're supposed to know what we're doing. We know what's good for them. But sometimes we really don't. We're really learning on the job. And this entire conversation is kind of going back to that it's a mutual learning. Like they're teaching us, we're teaching them, we're teaching, they're teaching. It's always a constant cycle.
Yeah.
And something so small but so powerful, what he said.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, that's what I'm saying. I had like another story, And that I'll share at another time. It was about my girl potty training right now.
Oh my God.
Anyways, I mean, then he said that all it took was just that like few, minutes of conversation. And I was like, that's so important right now. And that's why I wanted to share it. So yeah, I agree. They're teaching us all the time. We just have to listen. We just have to be very mindful. I think it's super important as a parent. And so for any new parents out there who are just starting or not even there yet, but on their journey, I think just be ready to learn a lot. So you won't have the answer to everything, right? So I think give
And
yourself
it's
some
okay,
grace. Yeah,
right? And it's
exactly.
okay.
And it's
I
okay.
think a lot of us feel like we're supposed to have the answers,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
And it's okay to not know. It's really
Yeah.
okay. Like, it's so funny. The other day, my daughter said that to me, okay? Like, she asked me a question, and I honestly don't even remember. And I was trying to fumble with an answer because I didn't know. And she's like, Mom, it's okay if you don't know. And
Oh, wow.
again, it was one of those things. I was like, yeah, it's okay that I don't know. It's okay for me to tell her. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to say I don't know everything, and that's fine. And I told her, I was like, you're so right. And I'm so sorry. I was trying to come up with an answer for you, but you're right. Like, I don't have the answer. Let's find out. And, I think it just makes the dialogue so much more meaningful when we realize we're not supposed to be perfect. And these guys, they're just, I don't know, they amaze me every single day. And when I hear stories from other parents, I'm just constantly amazed at it's like their learnings are coming from a sense of innocence, right? It's like pure, unadulterated innocence.
Yep.
And the way they look at the world, that all of these things just come out, and they're just teaching us through all of that.
Yeah, it's from just they don't have that much experience, of course, as us, or seen the world to its entirety, or even us, we haven't, and yet we still like make assumptions about things. So yeah, I mean, you're right. It's just not it's not distracted by other things, whereas ours is. And
yeah, it really is. Like last week, we were talking about the sense of wonder. Like when I was looking at my 2-year-old, looking at that ladybug, and it was just, I realized the sense of wonder that I've lost over time. And that was about sort of taking a pause in your life. And it's kind of stopping for a moment in the mad rush of life that we get consumed up in. And just thinking, hey, there's so much around us, right? And that's, I guess, like going back to what you were saying about prenatal parents, I think that's what like pregnancy is. It's a time for the partners to just take a pause, take a time out, and say, hey, this is like the biggest change we're going to have in our life. We're creating a life. And all of these conversations, these dialogues are mentally stimulating to not just the partners, but the kid, but the baby. And this is sort of laying the foundation for all these wonderful questions that they come up with.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's why, like you said, like I think it's important during that prenatal journey to take that pause, and even as a couple, just talk about these things that, hey, like the father might not know every answer or know how to help or know how to do certain things during that time. So, support each other. And then the mom, for sure, her body's changing if she hasn't gone through it before. So, how can we support her? So it's so new. Like my first pregnancy, it was like, oh my God, what's going on? I thought it was going to be blissful afterwards. No, it was hard for the first month.
Sure, it is.
And then after my second and third, it got much easier because I knew like how I wanted to change things and like how I wanted to be and not be. And so I could adjust otherwise. So, but it's a completely new journey if you haven't gone through it like before. Like you cannot describe it or compare it to anything. It's totally different. So yeah.
Only know when we go through it.
Yeah, and it's so awesome that, Stroller Club exists, because I know you guys are coming up with awesome stuff for parents in their prenatal journey. So I'm sure it'll help them so much. So I can't wait to see what you guys do.
Thank you. We're really excited too. Lots more coming up. Lots more.
Awesome.
But I love going back to like Arvin, and I love how you encouraged him. So another, like, I think it's like it's like kind of progression, right? Like he said something really interesting. It made you think, but at the same time, it's really important to reinforce that,
Yeah.
right? Like by you mentioning it to the elder brother, you said, right? You mentioned it to the elder brother.
Yep. Later on that day, I told him that, hey, Arvin asked me what freedom was, and then this is what he said.
Yeah.
And he's like, wow, he said that? Truthfully. Like he wasn't even sure like he actually said that. I said, yeah, he said that. I didn't say it. He's the one who like actually said it means you have to
Yeah.
be like, you can do whatever you want, but you have to be nice.
Yeah.
So I mean, he was amazed too. Like, yeah, so we shouldn't underestimate
No,
like
no, no,
our
no.
kids and how they pick up things so fast, and
Yeah.
just telling them these small things can set them for life, like literally. Yes, they will be, distracted by other things and motivated by other things, wrongdoings and things like that, but
Mhm.
when we start building these things from the womb onwards, like, and we're talking and
Yeah.
having these value conversations as parents and with the kids,
Mhm.
which I've said, I mean, like after my second kid, I knew that having a adult conversation, like to a certain
Yeah.
extent, with my kids versus a baby conversation is much more important because he
Mhm.
learned so much faster, my second one, and
They're
he
like
just gets it.
sponges.
Like he
Yeah.
understands because we had those conversations. We talked to him slowly, and like so he understood what was going on in whatever situation we were in. And so I find that super important. So, and even for my older one, I talk to him about everything, and I want it to be that way because I want him to be open with me.
Yeah.
And so it's working so far. So yeah, I mean, just the fact of expanding their sentence, their curiosity, and going beyond what they're actually just saying is important to both sides.
Yeah, I know, like absolutely what you said. These guys are like little sponges, and it's amazing how much they actually can interpret the world without having the communication skills. Like even before they learn how to talk, they can decode other communication signals. Like I remember my 1 year old would understand when I was feeling down, or like he would just even now, like he's 2, but he doesn't fully get it yet, but he knows like, oh, okay, mommy's a little sad today, so he'll just come up to me and he'll hug me. Like he'll just
Yeah.
know it. And
Yep.
I'm like, wow, how do you know this? Like I haven't said anything. I'm not exhibiting any signs,
Yeah, for
but
sure.
it's just they know it. And my daughter knows, and she'll just come up and she'll be like, Mommy, you sound a little different. I'm like, I sound a little different how? And she's like, you sound sad. And
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I just miss my mommy. And that's okay, right? It's okay to miss my mommy because my parents are in India and I'm here, so I do miss them sometimes.
Yeah.
But
Of
yeah.
course.
So and she's like,
She
yeah,
gets
mom,
it.
it's okay to miss your mommy. And then she'll just give me a big hug and then she'll be like, but I'm here to take care of you. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh, yeah.
But it's amazing how they pick up on those non-verbal signals even before they really know language.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's I mean what you did was amazing. I think a lot of it goes to you as a parent, right? Like you've opened that dialogue with them and you've kept that communication going and you've treated them like adults,
Yeah.
which is why they can respond back like that.
Yeah. And I think that's what I would leave this with is like as a huge tip, maybe for parents to be, or even if you have really young ones, from our second one onwards, we decided like we have to talk them like actual actual adult conversations, like in a very simple way, not like all these words thrown at them, but in a very simple way, like actually having that conversation going back and forth from like 2 years old, as soon as they can actually, just like probably after one, I think.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
just the fact that you're talking to them not like very babyish, but like, oh, no, like actually talk to them straight, like in your normal voice, and you'll see how fast they pick up.
Oh
Even
yeah, absolutely.
right? Like even talking too, and they'll get it. They'll understand, like you said. They'll just see it all around them. So yeah, I mean, I find that as one of the biggest tips. Like I didn't. I mean, I think me and my husband just decided that, and we hear that too, like and given advice. But
Yeah.
I think it's super important, and it's worked really well for us. So yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, I think it's a constant learning on the job.
Yeah.
no matter how many books you read, every kid is different, every
Oh
parent
yeah.
is different. I mean, with each woman, like each pregnancy is different, right? It's the same body, but two different pregnancies.
Yep.
And so each journey, each story is unique, and we all kind of have to craft it our own special way. Like a lot of times, I put a lot of pressure on myself because I hold my parenting, or not my, but my parents' parenting in very high regards, and I'm always like, oh, I'm nothing like them. Like I'm not even being half as good as they were. But then, like I'm like, okay, no, but every situation's different. If this is gonna be my story, I can learn from people around me, but it has to be mine,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's
Yeah.
gonna be my kids' when
Yeah.
they go out on their parenting journeys. And I think going back to the adult language, like talking like adults, I think it's very important. It's very important. And the fact that you asked, and in your conversation, your example, you didn't give him the answer right off the bat. That's another example. This is wonderful what you did because you asked them, like, oh, okay, like, what do you think? Not like, oh, you asked me a question, I'm supposed to give you the answer, and that's the answer. You're supposed to accept it.
Yep. Yep.
I think that was wonderful what you did. And that kind of made him think and come up with his own very powerful statement. Very
Yeah.
simple, but very powerful.
Yeah, and I think that happens when I realize that it came out of nowhere. Like
Yeah.
that question was like, okay, like I was doing something in the kitchen and he was just sitting there. And then he's a thinker. So I'm like, okay, let's see where this goes. So I asked him, like literally, I think sometimes, like you said, we want to give the answer, but then I'm like, I was curious to see and then I asked him, where did you hear about freedom? Like, did you talk about it at school?
Yeah.
So they talked about it at school, but I just wanted to know what he thought it was. And then he added on to that. And so, yeah, it was a nice conversation. And
Oh my gosh.
I think about it all the time now. It's going to stick with me because it's just super relevant right now, I think. So, yeah.
I mean, it applies to everything.
Yeah, it does.
Kindness is really key to everything.
Agree.
I really feel it has to be like a cornerstone of your life.
Agree.
But oh my gosh, this was such a wonderful conversation.
Yeah, it was. I'm glad I got to share that story because I'm pretty sure like we could all use that reminder.
I definitely think so. And I think exactly like it's like relevant in every way. It's not just about freedom, it's just everything we do in our lives. It has to if we are living in a society, it's very important to realize that there are others and there are other boundaries and other responsibilities and other people's perspectives that have to be considered and sensitivities. And it goes to so much like today that we talk about like being politically correct and all those things. I feel like there's just so much to think about when you're living in a society that is so multicultural, multilingual.
Yep.
So many sensitivities around. So it's just important.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
But this is wonderful. This is our reverse parenting journey.
Yeah. And I truly appreciate you having me on here today.
Oh my God, thank you so much. No, this is my pleasure. I love having you here. I love hearing your stories.
Thank you so much.
You've got 3. Oh my gosh. Lots more respect to you.
I mean, there are people having 4 and 5, so I'm like, okay.
I'm very far from that. I'm okay, like 2 and 3.
Even 1, right? Like, I mean, I think just do your best and go with the flow.
Mm-hmm.
Go with the flow.
Really. Yep, absolutely. But just to let everyone out there know, whoever's watching, if you feel like you have an interesting story to share with us about what you've learned from your kid, DM us at the Stroller Club. And we'd love to see what your story is. And we have you part of our next live chat. And thank you for everyone who joined from everywhere. It's always a pleasure. Before we hang up, if anyone has any questions, let me see. I don't think we had any questions today. No questions. Oh, I guess we were very clear on what we were talking about.
That rarely happens with me sometimes. It's like even I have questions. I'm like, what did I say?
Yeah. But this is wonderful. Thank you everyone for joining. We're going to have another one next Thursday, 10 a.m. Pacific time. So if you guys have time, hop on. Let us know where you're joining from. Give us our questions or DM us before if there's a specific thing you want to talk about. But this is just parents talking We're no experts, no psychologists, no degree holders in child care, education, or anything, but just passionate parents on a journey.
Absolutely. Thank you guys.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a
Thank you
good
so
day. Bye,
much.
Prathima. Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.